Ernest Renan, a great French writer of the 19th century, wrote somewhere, "The historian is the enemy of the nation." Because I often quote that to my students. I say, what do you think Renan meant? The historian is the enemy of the nation. Is the historian a traitor or something like this? Well, eventually they figure out every nation is built on myth. Every nation is built on a kind of a created view of history which has some truth but often obscures many aspects of the past. And then the historian comes along and says, well, no, the history of the United States is not just the story of freedom, onward and upward forever. We had slavery, folks. And moreover, it's not a straight line of more and more rights. People gain their rights, they lose their rights. It's much more complicated and more interesting, actually, because it's complicated. But a lot of people resent that. They are looking for what Nietzsche called monumental history. History that's just like a statue somewhere, where you can come and admire it and feel good about yourself. That's not the job of the historian, to make people feel good about themselves. And I really am an archive hound. You look at all my books, you'll find very long bibliographies of primary sources, and I really think that's where new discoveries lie. That's where a real in-depth sense of history at the local level lies. My book on the Underground Railroad is funny because normally I start with a question or a set of issues, and then I say, well, how am I going to research this? Where are the archives? Where are the sources? In this case, it was the opposite. Thanks to an undergraduate student here, she was writing about this guy, Sidney Howard Gay, an abolitionist editor. She was interested in his journalistic career. But one day she said to me, Professor, up in box 75 up there's these couple of notebooks which are called Record of Fugitives. And it turned out that Gay, this journalist, for 2 years was basically running the Underground Railroad in New York City, and for 2 years he kept a record of over 200 fugitive slaves who passed through his office. And being a journalist, he interviewed them. And you get the voice of these people in the midst of escaping from slavery. And I'd never seen a document quite like this, and I kind of worked outward from it. 1963, you can see what I looked like. This is me. You and I graduated from Columbia College. I took the Corps many, many years ago. It was fabulous. I learned an enormous amount. I could mention John Locke or Adam Smith or Herodotus, and students will know a little what I'm talking about. This shelf here, going all the way across to the end, is books written by former students of mine. And it's really a sign of, many of the things I've accomplished during my career as a teacher. I don't see a great conflict, although some people do, between teaching and scholarship. They reinforce each other. Teaching good students like we have forces you to formulate your ideas in a coherent way. So this is 1840?
Yeah.
Wow. That's a good ways past the Revolution.
Yeah.
I do think knowledge of history is very valuable in thinking through some of the problems our society faces. And I think wherever there is history, I think historians ought to try to make sure it's good history. That's really the point.